everyone. Welcome to the Rationable podcast and the Rationable YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be talking about the vaccines which are available in India for COVID or to fight against COVID. So, to help us out with getting our heads around the strengths and weaknesses of these vaccines, how effective they are, whether you should get vaccinated or not, I've got on a very special person, Haryax Pathak, who is from Vadodara. He is also a doctor and studying to be an even better doctor. He's studying to get into neurosurgery, which is brain surgery. It can be very important for some people we might be discussing today. Just kidding. So he did his MBBS from Pramukh Swami Medical College, Karamsad. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah, that's.
And he's preparing for his PG entrance exam. He's got some exams coming up very soon, so we can't take up too much of his time. And he has a special passion for public health messaging. Mostly because there's a lot of misconceptions and misinformation and malpractice going on, and he just wants to get the correct message out for those who listen. So we are definitely listening today, and thank you everyone for joining me, and thank you for joining us, Dr. Pathak.
Hi, thanks for hosting me on this podcast. I've been looking towards this for a very long time, actually.
Yeah, I'm sorry to have kept you waiting, but I'm glad that we're finally here and we're finally talking.
Yeah.
And to start off with, is there anything else that you'd like to tell us about? I mean, what was it that triggered you into caring more about public messaging, especially about medicine?
WhatsApp, family WhatsApp groups.
Oh,
they are a trigger for everybody.
I feel your pain.
because being a medico, when you see the kind of messages that are circulating on WhatsApp, that's one aspect. The worst thing is that the elders in your family actually start reading it. There's a certain pattern to all of those messages. They will take a random name from some XYZ foreign university, a random name for some XYZ foreign emeritus professor. They'll type up a message and everybody starts believing it because it's not from India. It's from abroad. Some expert from abroad is saying this, so we must follow it blindly.
Yeah, there was actually
one notion that I want to change, actually.
Oh, I am totally on board with that. There was a message which I kind of debunked or rather fact checked. I have a section on my website called fact check, forward fact check.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad. I saw there was this one message which came across. I think it was the one which it was talking about all sorts of nonsense about COVID, but there was one thing about a doctor in some random doctor they named in some university that they named from China. When I looked it up, that university, or not even that university, that town does not exist in China. It was in Afghanistan. And there was a doctor who did study there and probably worked there, but she was in a completely different field and had nothing to do with virology or anything to do with infectious diseases. So they've literally just picked up places and picked up things and kind of mashed them together and then said, now you must chew on garlic through the entire day if you want to cure yourself or prevent COVID from getting to you. It's just, it's incredible that first, I admire the creativity that these people have, because that is truly creative writing.
They have a flair for the language, actually. You can write scientifically.
I honestly, if I could write, exactly, if I could write that convincingly about science as these people can write about pseudoscience and misinformation that is so convincing to people and really tugs on people's heartstrings, like, if I could get that into my writing, man, I would, I'd be convincing people left, right, and center. But it's a very hard thing to nail down. But anyway, so let's get back to what we are talking about. So the vaccines, the COVID vaccines. I saw this amazing thread that you've got on your Twitter handle. Oh, first of all, before we start off, could you just tell us where people can follow you on Twitter so they can go check this out for themselves?
Yes, they can just search my name, Haryax Pathak, Haryax
Haryax Pathak.
Yes.
All right. So there was this amazing
I'm the
thread.
only one with that name on Twitter.
Yeah. And I honestly, at the first, I was like, come on, this is not the way that you spell that name, is it? But it is, and it's legit. So get with the program, everyone. Right. So what is it? How is it that you have educated yourself about the vaccines that are being distributed in India?
Well, first of all, I look for all the standard sources. That is the Ministry of Health website. They have divided the website into different sections. There is information for the layman. There's specific information for the hospitals and the administrators, and there are travel advisories and everything. So the MOHFW website, they have uploaded everything. They've created separate PDFs regarding all the vaccines that are under development, stages, how these vaccines will work, and how people can avail of the vaccines. And most importantly, who should take the vaccine, who should not, and why.
All right.
Then I go for the CDC and WHO websites. They are my two sources. CDC and WHO, nothing beats that.
Yeah, the gold standard as far as medical science is concerned.
Gold standard.
Yeah. And have you been vaccinated, or anyone else that you know closely have they been vaccinated?
Okay, so I have been sitting at home preparing for my exam for past year. It's a drop year for me, so I'm not currently working in a hospital. So the PHC at nearby my home refused to register me. That you are a doctor, but you're not working anywhere, so we will not vaccinate you. I said, all right, fine. I'm not even going out of my home anywhere. My parents got vaccinated last week.
Oh, wonderful! My parents got vaccinated just a couple of days back.
Yeah, my parents got it just last week.
Wonderful! I'm really glad. And was it Covaxin or was it Covishield?
We have Covishield over here.
Yeah, I've got Covishield over here. I think it's really hard to kind of figure that out, but of which one's better, or if there is even a choice. But we'll get to all of that very soon. But first, let's talk about how are these two vaccines different? What's the difference between Covaxin and Covishield?
Okay, so Covaxin, it has been developed by Pathak. It is basically an inactivated whole variant, which means they've taken the SARS-CoV-2 virus and they've inactivated it. They've taken away its ability to cause an infection in humanity. And that is being used in the vaccine. So it's like a body without its soul. You can think of it like that. It's just the body without its soul. So our immune system can identify the virus. No. Our immune system, it can identify the virus, all the proteins on the surface of the virus, and they identify that this is a foreign particle I don't need in my body. This causes harm to my body, so I will act against it.
Okay.
So that is the basic concept of the Covaxin.
Okay, so this is the dead virus, or is it a weakened virus? It's a dead virus.
It's an inactivated virus.
Okay, inactivated. Yeah, I mean, hell, do we even know if viruses are alive or dead? That's another very deep question that I don't think we can go down right now.
To survive.
Well, that's true. That's with a lot of parasites. But anyway, but you know what? I'm still interested. Tell me what you think. Is a virus alive or not?
Well, viruses can survive. We cannot call them living per se. Viruses can exist everywhere, but they can become active when they find a host. So that's when they become living.
Oh, okay. That's an interesting way to see it.
Viruses care about one thing: replication.
Don't we all?
Viruses care about one thing: replication, and for that they need a host.
Interesting. Okay, no, because I've always thought of viruses as kind of being on that, on the kind of borderline of being how we usually think of things as alive or dead. But it's a tough question. I think even philosophers have tried figuring this out. I think
they're
it's
in a
kind
trance state.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Now that and the Covishield is an adenovirus, right?
Covishield, they have used the adenovirus as a vector. And that virus is being given to us in the form. It's not even a coronavirus. It's a totally separate, different kind of virus.
That
Adenovirus
can't
is a
make us
totally
sick.
different virus. There are different kinds of viruses, but they have specifically ensured that the adenovirus cannot cause an infection. It cannot make us sick. If I were to tell you, Covishield uses a chimpanzee adenoviral vector, which means the adenovirus, it is derived from the chimpanzees.
Okay.
So basically, it's used as a vehicle to develop the genetic code that makes the spike protein.
Okay. All right. So then it gets inside us. It starts making the spike protein, and just the spike protein. Is that the case?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the body identifies that, develops the antibodies against it, and and so it moves on, and we develop an immunity to it. Now, I read about a new study which has been published in the Lancet, apparently, saying that the Covishield would be most effective if there is an interval of 90 to 120 days from the first dose to the second. Have you heard about this study?
Yes. There is a recommendation for increasing the duration to about 12 weeks, 10 to 12 weeks at least.
Yeah, so now the thing is, my parents, and I'm sure a lot of other people, have been told to come back in a month or 4 weeks instead of 12. What do you recommend we do?
As far as I know, India is going to follow the 4 to 6 week duration only. Vaccines, when they originally underwent trials, at that time they tested with a duration of 4 weeks. Then in subsequent studies, they increased the duration. There's a plausible theory behind it that when you increase the duration, the secondary response after 12 weeks is greater as compared to when we get after 4 weeks. There is a plausibility in that. And if you were to adapt the 12-week regimen, it's totally fine. Our Indian government is going to adapt they're going to stay with the 4 to 6 week regimen, primarily because we want to cover a majority of the population. In this phase 2, we have to cover around 27 crore people. So with the 4-week regimen, majority of the population can receive both the doses and become fully vaccinated. When you increase it to 12 weeks, there is a chance that many of them might be lost to follow-up. It's very common in medical practice. And the thing is that even if you receive one dose, you are still susceptible to getting an infection. One dose does not provide full protection. So in India, many people have seen they have the tendency that I've received one dose of the vaccine, I'm protected, so I will abandon the mask, I will not follow social distancing protocol and everything. We don't want. So it's better to take it after 4 weeks. If somebody wants to take it after 12 weeks, they will have the choice. It's not compulsory to take it within 4 weeks.
Okay, so what's the difference between the efficacy that we have when we are getting the second dose 4 weeks later versus the 12 weeks that has recently been found? What do you think the differences would be in the efficacy, and what difference would it make to our lives?
Well, the efficacy would be a fractional difference in efficacy. If I were to talk about practically, I don't think that it would make that much of a difference because the vaccines they have a 4-week difference in the regimens.
Okay.
And eventually it comes down to following other protocols as well. I mean, whether you take it within 4 weeks or within 12 weeks, whether you take it within 4 weeks or within 12 weeks, it's about how the majority of the population gets vaccinated, how much the virus is still in circulation in the population. The new variants that have come up, they also make difference because as far as I know right now, Covishield is not that effective against the new variants.
That's troubling. And what about Covaxin? Does that seem to be more protection against the new strains?
Studies, so all the vaccines currently used, they have somewhat reduced activity against the new variants. Even a Covaxin in lab studies that has been shown to neutralize the UK variant to a reduced extent as compared to the original virus. So all the vaccines currently, they will have somewhat reduced activity. But right now that I know of, it's Pfizer, Moderna, and these three are effective against the new variants.
Okay, so only the mRNA ones, or
Pfizer, Moderna are mRNA ones, and Covaxin is inactivated whole variant.
Yeah, of course. So now Covaxin is still in phase 3 trials, right?
They have published an interim efficacy of the phase 3 trials, but the full results are yet to be published. They have completed the recruitment and everything. The final results are yet to be published.
And how did that look?
They have published an interim result. So that has come out to 80.5% efficacy, which is quite good. We'll know more after the full results come out.
All right, fingers crossed. I don't know when we'll be allowed to get the vaccine, but I'm definitely looking forward to it. Now, there are a lot of rumors that have been going around regarding getting the vaccine. Now, of course, we're very familiar with the anti-vax rhetoric that has been going through Europe and the US, even Canada to quite an extent. But fortunately, it hadn't hit India that much. Unfortunately, thanks to YouTube and WhatsApp University, it seems that a lot of people have started getting scared of getting vaccinated. Now, what are the most prominent rumors that you've come across of people that, what are the fears that people have against getting vaccinated against COVID?
Actually, there's two different aspects to this. Countries like USA, they have seen a strong anti-vax campaign. That is, people who are inherently against vaccination. India, fortunately, we haven't seen such a systemic opposition to vaccines. Here we have what is called vaccine hesitancy. People are hesitant or reluctant to go for vaccines. Primarily, there are two reasons for it. One, it's that they feel the vaccines will come out too fast. Usually, vaccines around 4 to 5 years to develop and being launched. But here we have developed them in a short span of a year. So one thing is that they have a slight mistrust or reluctancy towards that. The second thing is the fear of side effects. Now, you read news articles and you read those, again, WhatsApp messages, and everything, they exaggerate the side effects. XYZ person had fever, XYZ person had allergy or anaphylaxis. That has really created a lot of fear in the minds of
people. And should they be afraid?
See, we took vaccines as children as well. Like, we had a whole immunization schedule. Even those vaccines have some sort of side effects. And most of the side effects are mild. Even with the COVID vaccines, be it Covaxin or Covishield or the mRNA vaccines or the new vaccines which are in the pipeline, all of these vaccines, they will have some sort of side effects. And it will be mild side effects. Like, you may have fever, headache, pain at the injection site, some weakness, fatigue.
Yeah.
These are to be expected, because vaccines, they enter the body. They are directly triggering our immune system. So that is naturally going to have some effect of its own. And not everybody will have the side effects. That's the first thing to remember. Not everyone will have the side effects. My parents took the vaccine. My mom had fever for 2 days. My dad did not have anything. He was perfectly fit and fine. That's what people need to remember, that if you get them, don't worry. It's self-resolving. It will go away on its own. If you feel a lot of discomfort, you can take your regular painkiller or fever medication. That's more than enough. Those may have an allergic or anaphylactic reaction. So according to the framework of vaccination, you will be under observation for 30 minutes after you receive the injection. Anaphylaxis or allergic reactions usually happen immediately after you receive the injection. So that, if happens, it's very rare. And it has not been seen with Covishield or Covaxin. Yet it's very rare. And if it occurs, it will be managed there itself by the hospital authorities. And from what I know, people with a history of allergies. So if safety is a concern, then don't need to be worried, because these are assessed for their safety and efficacy in all 3 phases of the trials. After that, if it is satisfactory, then only they are given.
Okay. And I'd read up on this quite a bit. And even when my parents had gone, we did sit there for half an hour. They also told us to sit for half an hour to see if there's any bad reactions or anything of that sort. A lot of other people were sitting there as well who had just been vaccinated. Nobody there had any side effects. And this is, of course, anecdotal evidence. But even the empirical evidence does very clearly state that the chances of having a bad reaction or an allergic reaction are very, very, very slight. And that should in no way stop you from actually getting the vaccine. And even then, it is taken care of because you're sitting there in the clinic for at least half an hour, where if you feel any discomfort, you can talk to the people there immediately and get treated for any discomfort that you might feel. And when we came home, I was expecting my parents, like somebody to came kind of say that I've got a little bit of body ache, a little bit of fever. They were also well aware of it, but they felt absolutely nothing. And my parents are in their 70s. They have comorbidities. They have come out with it. Absolutely no problem. I've heard that sometimes it happens only in the second dose. So we'll see what happens then. But until then, everything seems absolutely fine. It's been a couple of days already. There's been absolutely no complaints. Now, there has been one thing, though, which has caused some surprise on my part and a little bit of concern. I mean, and a lot of concern for a lot of people, even young people who I've been speaking to, who say that there have been a lot of reports of people dying after getting the vaccine. Is this true? And why do you think that's happening?
As per the latest report I've read, about 39 or 40 casualties have been reported after vaccination. And the National EFI Committee, they're actually onto it. They're investigating each and every case. So the last news report I read, according to that, they have said that none of those deaths are temporarily related to the vaccination, which means that the vaccine has not caused the death.
Mm-hmm.
That's what people need to understand, that chronology does not mean causation. If death is followed by vaccination, it does not mean that it's possible that the person may be having some of the other comorbidities, a history of comorbidity, which may have led to the death. When it comes to investigating these cases, so it's like that rule we follow in the courtroom: innocent until proven guilty. Can this death be explained by any other cause than the vaccine? If yes, then it's safe to assume that the vaccine is responsible for it. Because these vaccines they undergo the trials for this very thing, that it should be safe for the people receiving. If even one death occurs in the trials, stop and investigate that death. So far, we haven't seen any of that happening. And I guess weeks ago, our health minister had said that death occurring 4 to 10 days after vaccination is not related to the vaccination. It's not because of the vaccination.
Fair enough. And do you know of any of these deaths which have happened immediately after by any chance?
Immediately after, no. I guess there was one case. It was a medical intern, I guess. He died after receiving the vaccine, but then he had a history of encephalitis. As I said, some of the other comorbidity or history. So he had a history of encephalitis, that's brain infection of the brain.
Oh, I see.
Same thing that, very early during the trials, a man from Chennai was in the news against Serum Institute.
Mm-hmm.
You might have heard of that news, the side effects of vaccination. There was a lawsuit that followed as well. The same history was there as well. He had encephalitis, he had a history of neural illness.
I see. So, are there any populations there who should be not considering getting the vaccine? Who are the people who shouldn't be getting either one of those vaccines?
The vaccines haven't been trialed in children, the pediatric age group, and they are not being given the vaccines as well right now. Apart from that, those who are
Immunocompromised.
because the immunocompression poses a huge risk to the health. So immunocompromised people are not advised to get the vaccine.
So just for people who are wondering, an immunocompromised person is, among other things, I mean, at least the most common that I know of, and please add on to this if you can, is, people who have undergone either an organ transplant and have been put on immunosuppressive drugs, people who are on immunosuppressants otherwise as well, and there are people who have naturally their immunity is naturally deficient in certain factors.
Yes.
So these are the people who should not be getting the vaccine. And this is and I just want to add this in. These are the people who we should be getting vaccinated for. For the people that cannot get vaccinated, because there are certain people who have been
really true. Yes.
Yeah, and I've heard that women who are also planning to start a family, planning to have children, should not be getting the vaccine as well. Now, you can elaborate on that in just a moment, but I just wanted to say that one of the most important things is that the people who can get vaccinated should get vaccinated, because you're not just protecting yourself, you are protecting people who cannot get vaccinated for medical reasons. And those who have compromised immune systems, if they get COVID, it could be a lot more lethal for them than any of us. So before you blatantly, you just want to reject the idea of getting vaccinated, I suggest you seriously think about the people that you can be protecting. And it might not just be people in your family, because in the end, you become a vector of transmission. And if you get the vaccine, that means the vaccine stops at you. You can't transmit it to somebody else who can then transmit it to somebody else who can transmit it to a person who can't get vaccinated. So if you don't do it for yourself, at least do it for those with weakened immune systems who really need us to take the vaccine. And sorry, please carry on.
Okay, so the one thing you said about planning a family, vaccine does not cause infertility in women, so it is safe to take the vaccine. If you're planning a family, it is safe to take the vaccine.
Okay, wonderful.
Even the CDC website says it does not cause infertility.
Okay, so why? But I have seen some notifications from the government saying that if you are a woman who is planning to start a family or is trying to start a family, then you shouldn't be taking a vaccine. Is there a certain reason for that?
As a precautionary measure, the government has included a lot of categories. I mean, those who are planning to start a family, and then those with history of anaphylaxis or drug allergies. All of these people have been included in the list who are not recommended to take the vaccine by the government.
Okay.
So at least for the moment, measure.
Until we have more
avoid any untoward or unforeseen incidents. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
And one more thing you said about transmitting. The vaccines will prevent infection. There are two aims for the vaccines. One is to prevent an infection, obviously. The second one is because the vaccines are not 100% effective. The efficacy ranges from 80% to 90%. Some people may get an infection even after getting vaccinated. But the advantage is that it will not be a severe infection.
I see.
So
that is
the person
another
may
very
not
important
require hospital or ICU admission or ventilation. So that is the secondary aim and a very important aspect of vaccination, that if you possible, there is a rare chance. Even if you do get infected after getting the vaccine, it will be a mild infection which can be managed at home easily. And the vaccines right now, they are not known to stop the transmission of the virus, which means you may be vaccinated, the virus may enter your body. You may not get infected, but you can still be a carrier for the virus and transmit it to others. You can still shed the virus. which is why we are still recommending that you continue wearing masks, continue practicing your physical distancing, social distancing, irrespective of whether you are vaccinated or not. Vaccination does not give you the right to share the mask. It is still necessary. Maybe not for you, but as you said, those around.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And but of course, there is another thing. The WhatsApp messages have not stopped, of course, but there has been a rather disturbing development of the Coronil kit, which is now not only going to market but has now the endorsement of the Ministry of Family Welfare and Health. So, what do you have to say about that?
I don't think there is anything to say about that. We don't want to give it more publicity. But I actually saw the paper they published.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where to start because it's rubbish, in one word. They have the potential to conduct proper scientific research. They have the potential to do that, but for some reason they're not doing it. Because many of our medicines, they are derived from the original herbal medicines. It's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
Many of our modern medicines, they have plant origins or herbal origins.
Yeah.
But they have become modern medicines. They are used today because they have undergone proper scientific research, proper trials, animal trials, and human trials.
Mm-hmm.
They have been assessed properly. There is a biological plausibility behind that. After that, after constant vetting, they are in use today. With Coronil, there's none of that. It is, as far as I know, it's basically a concoction of different substances. And I saw a couple of reports that it consists high amounts of heavy metals as well. It may cause toxicity as well. I mean, you can look up to Dr. Abby Phillips for that.
Yeah,
He's the god
I'm going to be
when it comes to debunking these Ayurvedic meds.
Yeah, I'm going to have Dr. Phillips come on and talk about this in detail. So I've already taken your advice.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, for anyone who's listening,
And
if you are
Dr.
considering,
Om Lakhani.
Sorry, Dr. Lakhani. Yeah.
There's an
I've encountered him as well.
endocrinologist, Dr. Om Lakhani, and he got into a spat with Patanjali Ayurved. It was really better, but it stands. I mean, they have no scientific basis, at least no valid scientific basis for what they are proposing. I mean,
Absolutely.
They conducted trial on 100 participants, of which 50 were in the placebo.
Mm-hmm.
Only 50 received their Coronil. You cannot expect to have external validity. You cannot expect to use that drug in a nation of 138 crore people on the basis of results that you achieve in 50.
Absolutely. This is at best, like, even if you give it the full benefit of the doubt, even then, this is, I mean, even if you look through all the holes, the loopholes that they've evidently jumped through, this is still a very preliminary trial. This is the kind of proof of concept trial that is even before phase 1. This is something that is
Exactly.
just showing efficacy in a very, very basic, very, very small way. And if Coronil is supposed to be considered a real medicine, then that study should be falsified, it should be tested, it should be repeated over and over again by independent parties, and only then will you know if it actually works or not.
Yes.
Right now, we've got absolutely no evidence for that.
Absolutely.
And yes, it's Dr. Abby Phillips, who I will be having on a little bit later. He has gone into detail, and he's even shaken me up. Like, I'm a very, I mean, I'm definitely very skeptical about Ayurvedic treatments. I've had Dr. Sumaya Sheikh and Dr. Abhyankar talking about it on this podcast, but he has shaken even the most optimistic sides of me when it comes to Ayurveda. Like, it is heartbreaking, the kind of things that are happening out there. But we'll leave that for later. I don't want to take the spotlight off you right now. But how have people been taking the messaging that you've been putting out on Twitter so far?
Really well, actually. So I've been on Twitter for over 10 years now, nearly 10 years, but I became active only in around November when I put up my first COVID. To say the least, as I've received very positive actually, because people actually came to me with the doubts. Most of the time, everyone is looking for a trustworthy face or a reliable source of information. Somebody will give the correct information to them without any gift wrapping.
Absolutely.
And that was my aim, and I actually received lots of messages and comments asking various types of questions and everything. That actually motivated me. So I added 5 more threads around COVID, covering. One was about the general information of COVID. Then I really delved into the transmission of COVID, because the most important thing is we stop the transmission. Then, so I covered how it happens and why exactly are you recommending that you wear masks and practice social distancing. It's not out of the blue that it's an infection, but there is a certain science behind it. There's a reason behind it. And I must say, people have responded pretty positively towards that.
Wonderful. I'm really glad about that, because the kind of hate that one can get, I mean, the outrage that overflows from Twitter is sometimes unbearable. It's something that I'm still getting used to. But I'm really glad people have taken
that kind of.
Yeah.
It happened with me, but not from India. We see one post about New York Times. They had covered same one. The concern you asked me about, that a person became positive after receiving the vaccine. Right. So I had commented on that tweet that please change your headlines. Your headline is misleading. This is not how the vaccine works. A person may still be susceptible. And it was a New York Times. So a lot of the Make America Great Again, the MAGA guys, they barged in onto me, and my Twitter was full of notifications for days. There were hateful comments, this and that.
My God.
That was the last time I ever commented on any foreign news page.
But I'm telling you, don't stop doing that, because it's very important. Twitter has a tendency of making us feel that our comments have no benefits because of the repercussions it gets. But this is there's actually science to this, and I wish I could tell you exactly which study spoke about this, but I read it a while back, that there have been studies talking about, how to counter spreading misinformation. The interesting thing is that as much anger and outrage you'll get and rebuttals you'll get on social media for sharing valid facts and evidence-based claims, the people on the sidelines who have seen those conversations, the people who might have that shadow of a doubt about, wondering whether their beliefs are really, are they really valid or not, if they hear a well-reasoned, or see, for that matter on Twitter, a well-reasoned argument stating specific facts that can be verified independently, there is a definite effect, a benefit that they face, which is the only thing that keeps me going. I mean, I'm not extremely active on Twitter. I intend to be. I hope I will do so in the future. But whatever I see, I try and put in a comment, even if I get a backlash, it's fine. Like, it's as long as I keep my cool and I'm talking sense and I'm not trying to offend anyone.
Sorry, I'm not getting the last part.
I just repeat that, just in case even if there's a lot of outrage, but if I am keeping my cool, I am talking sensibly, I'm not being intentionally offensive to someone, and showing people that there is sense behind what I'm saying, there is that hope that somebody who is looking through that thread will get the message. And, that's the only thing that keeps me coming back for more. But there are some
So that's
pretty
why I made
disturbed
it a
people on
point
there.
actually. That's why I made it a point actually. So if you will go through my threads, so I make it a point to back up all my tweets with the source, the original source of the CDC website, which was published in a journal.
So if I got that right, you make it a point to back up all the claims you make from reliable sources like WHO and CDC, etc. Which it definitely definitely helps getting people. But then, of course, there are always the crowd of conspiracy theorists like, oh, they're all sellouts, and oh, they're all trying to keep us sick because of big pharma. And there is only so much that you can fight as far as that's concerned. But is there anything else that you'd like to
Conspiracy
add
theories,
before we?
I love them because it's purely for entertainment purposes. I love conspiracy theories. Entertainment.
Yeah, absolutely. I do find some of them very entertaining, but when it comes to COVID and things like that, and COVID and vaccines are two forms of conspiracy theories that scare me. That really, they're dreadful. These are the things that have people's lives in their hands. These are matters of life and death. So, other than that, when it comes to flat Earth, definitely very entertaining.
That's true. That's absolutely true.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell the audience before we wrap things up?
There's a conspiracy theory that the COVID vaccine has a microchip in it.
Oh yeah, the Bill Gates one, where Bill Gates is trying to keep track of us. I mean, really, you shouldn't be worrying about Bill Gates. You should be worried about Mark Zuckerberg. If he comes up with a vaccine, don't take it. Right. So thank you so much. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with the audience?
The science, the vaccine have undergone adequate trial vaccinated, and they are probably watching TV or something in the other room. They're absolutely healthy. Don't be afraid of vaccines. It's actually necessary if you are to end this pandemic as soon as possible.
So just to reiterate, because you did break up a little bit there, I think you said if you are otherwise relatively healthy, but even if you are concerned about the vaccine, just go out and get it. You are not only doing yourself a favor, you're pushing the entire country towards a position where you can finally we can finally go around without masks someday in the future. I'm not saying we do that right now, not immediately after you're vaccinated, but this is the path that we have to get onto to fight COVID in India and get India safe again. So please don't worry about it. There's nothing to be concerned about.
Absolutely.
Get a qualified doctor's opinion if you want. Don't just take our word for it. Look at the CDC, look at the WHO websites. Speak to your doctor about it, your medical doctor, and just go out and get the vaccine. I am going to get it as soon as we're allowed to.
Medical doctor, one who has done MBBS.
Yes, definitely. One who has done an MBBS. And if you can't find a reliable doctor, just look up Dr. Haryax Pathak on Twitter. Send him a message, send him a DM, tweet at him, ask him whatever questions you have, and I'm sure he'll help you clear them up.
I'll be available on Twitter DMs and everything.
Anyway, thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Pathak, and thank you for doing the right thing and spreading the right information about the vaccines. Thanks for clearing up all the questions that I had today. If there are any more, I will definitely ask you, and maybe I'll write an entire article with your answers, or we can just have you on once again to answer any more questions that have come in from the audience. But thank you so much for everything you do. All the best with the exams, and thanks for joining us on Rationable.
Thanks for having me on the podcast as well. It's a pleasure as well, getting to do something good for the community.
You do that every day. Thank you so much for that. All right, bye.
Goodbye.
Well, thank you everyone for joining in, and thanks for watching this video. I really wanted to get this out sooner. There were lots of scheduling problems on my end. Dr. Pathak was very nice and was very patient and has stuck around with this. I hope you've enjoyed the discussion. If you have any more questions, you can either send them to me on Twitter at @BRationable. You can email them to abhijit@brationable.com. That's abhijit@brationable.com. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, thank you so much for listening. I will be back with more interviews and more interesting content on science, medicine, health very, very soon. Until then, join us on Facebook at the Rationable Conversations group and the Rationable page on Facebook. And also check out the YouTube channel if you haven't done that already. It's just called Rationable and it's on YouTube. There are lots more interviews, very much like this one, as well as other interviews that I've linked there with Dr. Paul Offit, Dr. Sumaya Sheikh, and many more. So please go on there, check it out, and visit www.brationable.com to check out all the other content I have, all the podcast episodes, and lots more. I'll see you next time. Thank you for joining us.